Hello and welcome to helpyourmath.com. In this video, we are going to talk about phrases that imply the four operations when we're given English phrases and how they translate into algebraic expressions. Let's get started. So what are some phrases that mean addition? And now's a good time, pause the video and think about a few that you can come up with. Okay, so here are the ones that I came up with, and I do want to say that this is just what I came up with. There are others, of course, but here are just some very common ones that we see. The sum of A and B, and so this would imply A plus B. The sum of A and B means A plus B. A increased by B also means A plus B. A added to B would be A plus B. B more than A would also imply A plus B. Now, because addition has this special property called the commutative property, meaning A plus B is the same as B plus A, if you got this and you said B more than A and you wrote B plus A, that's technically correct, but if we're translating it into how it's written into math, then it should be A plus B. So we do want to keep in mind that more than is saying we're starting out with A and then we're adding on this other amount. So even though that's correct, we don't really count that. Well, how is my list? Is it complete? If it's not, feel free to leave a comment and tell me what else you came up with. Next, let's talk about subtraction. Again, you might want to pause the video, make your list. My first one was the difference of A and B. So each of the four operations has that special key word. For addition, it was sum. For subtraction, it's difference. And then multiplication and division also have their key words. We want to be familiar with those. Those indicate the answer of each type of operation. So if I say the difference of A and B, this means A minus B. What else means A minus B? A decreased by B. A subtracted by B. And here's where subtraction goes a little bit wonky. So remember with addition where I said, sure, if you write B plus A, that's fine. With subtraction, it's not fine. We need to write it the way that we see it. So B less than A means we're starting off with A, and then we're taking B away from it. So B less than A is still A minus B when we translate it into algebraic symbols. B fewer than A. So fewer than is one of those words that kind of gets left out. We use less more than we use fewer, and we shouldn't because, well, we should use fewer when it's appropriate. Also, B subtracted from A would also mean A minus B. So all of these imply A minus B, even though we see the last three start out with that variable that's being subtracted. We have to be really, really careful with subtraction. Next, we have multiplication. Pause the video, see what you come up with. At the very least, I hope you found that key word that means the answer to a multiplication, and that would be the product. The product of A and B would mean when we have variables or a number in a variable, we can just write them together, right? We squash them together, and that implies multiplication. A times B also would mean A times B. A multiplied by B. So these are the three kind of generic ones that work for any value that we might see. With multiplication, we do have words that imply specific types of multiplication. For example, if we see twice A means 2 times A. Also, if we see double A, also means 2 times A. So if we see twice A or double A, that would imply 2 times A. We could also see triple A, which would mean 3 times A. So triple A, and then we could keep building off that, right? So there's twice, triple, quadruple, etc., etc. Those are much less common. More commonly, we're going to see twice, or we're going to see double to mean 2 times A, or we're going to see triple to imply 3. If we did want to say 4 times A, we would probably just say either the product of 4 and A or 4 times A, one of those more generic phrases. And then there's just one more phrase that could mean multiplication. Actually, it's two, but they're similar. So if we see a proper fraction of A, this might look something like 1/3 of a number. And if we see 1/3 of a number, this would imply 1/3 times that number. So we might write it 1/3 times A. And that would be, and we might see 1/3 or 2/3, 3/4, 5/6. Usually it's a proper fraction. It'd be very weird to see 6/5 of a number, although I suppose it can happen. Or we might see a percent of a number. So maybe it says 20% of a number. And if it says 20% of a number, when we actually write this using the algebra, we don't actually use the percent. We need to convert it to its equivalent decimal or fraction by dividing by 100. If we're going to divide by 100 and write it as a decimal, we'd be moving the decimal point 2 places to the left. So to translate this into an algebraic expression, I would say 0.2 times a, because that would be the expression to represent 20% of a number. And I'm using a here. More commonly, we do use x, so either one is fine. And the last operation, division. I only came up with a few for this one. Let's see if you can beat me. All right, I have the quotient of a and b. If we're writing this algebraically, we usually use the fraction bar over the division sign, but really either of these are probably fine. Check with your instructor if they have a preference. A divided by b, either of those would be correct. B divided into a. So just like with subtraction, depending on like the little power word that's written in division kind of indicates which one's the numerator and denominator or the dividend and divisor. B divided into a means we're starting with a. So this implies that either this is the numerator or this is the dividend. The dividend is that number that we're starting with. The one that's doing the dividing is called the divisor or the denominator. So this guy's called the divisor. And we know that this is the case because of that word into. So when we see divided by, that's like the normal a over b, but b divided into a, that's still a over b because the into kind of like flips things around. These are what I came up with. Again, if you found any others, please leave a comment and let me know what I left out. These have been phrases that we use to express the 4 operations. Thank you for stopping by.